Learning outcomes. After studying this module, you shall be able to know the effects of an expansionary monetary policy, analyze the implications of a fiscal contraction, understand how supply shocks affect output and the aggregate price level. Learn about the suitability of an accommodating policy in face of an adverse supply shock. So far, we have learnt about nature and characteristics of aggregate supply and aggregate demand curves, and how the two interact in ASAD framework to determine the level of prices and output in the short run and the subsequent adjustment of the economy to the long run when actual and expected prices are equal. We are now ready to learn how policies, both fiscal and monetary, affect the level of prices and output both in the short run and the long run. This would enable us to know how best to use these policies to achieve the long run policy goals of full employment and price stability. In this module, we shall use the ASAD framework to explore the impact of demand and supply shocks and learn about the dynamic impact of monetary and fiscal policy on the aggregate price level and output. We will also learn about the dynamic effect of changes in the price of oil on the level of economic activity. It may help to recall that the aggregate supply curve captures the implications of equilibrium in the labor market. It is an upward sloping curve and is drawn for a given level of expected price. When actual price is equal to the expected price, the corresponding output is the long run equilibrium or natural level of output. A change in the expected prices shifts the AS curve. The aggregate demand captures the implications of equilibrium in both the goods and the money market. It is represented by a downward sloping curve. Changes in the monetary and fiscal policy that shifts the ISLM curve also shift the aggregate demand curve. In the previous two modules, we have learnt about the derivation, slope and shift of the AS and AD curves. In what follows, we use the ASAD framework for analyzing the implications of monetary and fiscal policies and supply shocks on aggregate output and prices. Now let us discuss about the effects of monetary and fiscal policy. Under it, first we will discuss about the effects of monetary expansion in short run and the long run. So we start our analysis by analyzing the implications of a monetary expansion. Suppose money supply increases from M to M dash, where M stands for nominal money supply. The effects of a monetary expansion can be analyzed from two perspectives, as it has a different implication in the short run and the long run. Soon after the increase in nominal money supply, the economy moves to the short run equilibrium, but over time the price level adjusts and the changes in aggregate supply takes output back to the long run level. The figure 3.1 explains these effects of a monetary expansion on the price level and output both in the short run and long run. Let us assume that economy is at the long run level indicated by point E with the price level at P and output at Yn. Now suppose the central bank increases the nominal money supply from M to M dash, ceteris paribus. It increases the money supply, thereby shifting the aggregate demand curve to the right to AD dash. The new equilibrium is at E dash with the price level rising from P to P dash, and the output increases from Yn to Y dash. This depicts the short run equilibrium. However, the economy will not remain here for long. Observe that P dash is now greater than PE implying that actual price level has exceeded the expected price level. When the workers realize that their real wages are falling, as a result, they would revise their expectations of the price level and demand an upward revision of the nominal wages. This shifts the AS curve upwards. Its position is determined by the expected price level, and the economy moves up along the AD dash curve, and the new equilibrium is at E double dash. Notice that the AS dash passes through the vertical broken line so that P dash equals the new expected price, that is PE, at the long run level. However, at E double dash the output has fallen to Y double dash, but it is still higher than Yn, and the actual price P double dash is still higher than the new expected price, that is PE, forcing the workers to revise their expectations of price level and further shift the AS curve upwards. This process will continue till AS dash shifts to AS double dash, where actual and expected price level is equal and the economy reaches the long run level at Yn, depicted by the equilibrium E triple dash. The process of adjustment from E dash to E triple dash shows the dynamic effects of a monetary expansion. It is important to note that the final impact of a monetary expansion is only on the price level with no change in output. In other words, a monetary expansion increases the output temporarily in the short run, whereas in the long run it only increases the price level. Therefore, we conclude that money is neutral in the long run. Neutrality of money implies that an increase in nominal money supply increases the price level proportionately. Recall that this is consistent with the monetarist claim that in the long run, inflation is caused by money growth. To examine the link between money growth and inflation, we can use the quantity theory of money, which relates the level of nominal income, that is Py, the money stock, that is M, and the velocity of money, that is V, such that MV is equal to P into Y. We may express this equation in terms of percentage change over time of each of the four terms, and the resulting equation can be written as M plus V is equal to pi plus Y in all small letters. The lower case denotes the terms in percentage change, where M is growth of nominal money, V is the percentage change in velocity, pi is the rate of inflation, and is the growth rate of output. Rearranging the equation to account for the source of inflation, we can write pi is equal to M plus V minus Y. With V fixed, as it is assumed to be determined by institutional factors, and Y fixed at the long run level, an increase in M would result in a proportionate increase in pi in the long run. What is the significance of the above policy formation? Should monetary policy be pursued to increase output? Our analysis shows it might be a futile exercise as it ultimately results in inflation. However, it rests on the premise that the economy is at the natural rate of unemployment. What about economies which are persistently below full employment, that is, are facing recession? Would a monetary expansion be recommended in such a case? Now we can discuss about monetary expansion adjustment process in terms of ISLM model. To understand more about the process of adjustment following a monetary stimulus, we will use the ISLM model. This will give us a clearer idea about how key macro variables such as interest rate and prices are affected in the short run and how they adjust in the long run. We modify figure 3.1 by excluding AS dash and AS double dash and reproduce it in figure 3.2 part A. In figure 3.2 in part B, the point of intersection of the IS and LM is at E, depicts the original equilibrium in part A. When nominal money supply is increased, it shifts the aggregate demand to the right. The corresponding shift is shown by shift of the LM to LM dash. Notice that at point E dash in the AS-AD framework, the price level increases along with an increase in money supply, partially offsetting the effect of the increase in the nominal money supply. As a result, LM shifts from LM to LM dash and not to LM double dash. The shift to LM double dash would happen if the price level was constant at P and the equilibrium would be indicated by point E. Thus, the intersection of IS and LM dash is depicted by E dash corresponding to the same point in the AS-AD framework. Now, as the price level increases due to the upward shift in the AS curve, real money supply falls, thereby shifting the LM curve upwards till we reach the final equilibrium point E triple dash. Thus, the net effect shows there is no change in real money supply as the expansion in the nominal money supply is completely reversed by the increase in the price level. In the long run, the LM curve returns to its original level with no change in the rate of interest. However, in the short run, a monetary expansion causes a decline in the interest rate from I to I dash and a temporary increase in output from Yn to Y dash. Now let us examine the effects of fiscal contraction in short run and long run. Here we will learn about the implications of a change in fiscal policy. Suppose output is at the long run level initially and the government decides to reduce spending from G to G dash while keeping taxes unchanged. This leads to a shift of aggregate demand curve to the left from AD to AD dash, which affects the level of prices and output both in the short run and long run. In figure 3.3, the initial equilibrium is at A with Yn as the output level and P as the price level. With a reduction in government spending, the economy slides into a recession indicating by the short run equilibrium point B with a lower level of output, that is Y dash, and price level P dash respectively. As the price level is below the expected price level, that is PE, workers revise their expectation of the price level, which shifts the AS down, and this process continues till the economy reaches the long run equilibrium. In other words, the economy moves along the AD dash to reach the long run equilibrium point at C with Yn as the level of output. Thus, over time the economy moves to the long run equilibrium and overcomes the effects of the recession. Fiscal contraction, adjustment process in terms of IS-LM model. For a deeper understanding of the process of adjustment following a fiscal contraction and its impact on interest rate and output, we use the IS-LM model. Figure 3.3 is reproduced in part A of figure 3.4. In part B, the initial equilibrium A is shown by the intersection of IS and LM curves. When the government reduces fiscal deficit by cutting down government spending, the IS shifts to the left to the IS dash and the economy moves to point B with a lower output as compared to the initial level. Notice that equilibrium B lies at the intersection of IS dash and LM dash. This arises because the price level is now lower, which leads to an increase in real money supply, causing a shift of the LM curve to the right from LM to LM dash, lowering the level of interest rate and income. With a constant price level, the economy would have moved to point A dash. As the economy moves along the AD dash due to the shift in AS from B to C shown in figure part A, the real money supply increases due to a fall in price level and the LM continues to shift to the right till the long run equilibrium is reached at C which lies at the intersection of IS dash and LM double dash. The movement from B to C shows the fall in the interest rate and the resulting increase in investment spending and output. Since eventually the economy settles at the long run level, that is Yn, with a lower interest rate, we can understand the adjustment through the following equation, which depicts the long run situation, where Yn is equal to C, Yn minus T plus I, which is a function of Yn and I plus G, where Yn is the natural rate of output, C is the aggregate consumption, T is taxes, I is the level of private spending and G is the level of government spending. As output regains its natural level at Yn, consumption is the same as in the previous equilibrium situation with Y and T being the same. However, G is lower than before and we have seen that it leads to a lower rate of interest. So, it must be the case that I is higher than before to compensate for the fall in G. So as to restore equality between the two sides, that is reduction in G leads to full crowding in of private investment in the long run via lower interest rates. To avoid temporary recession caused by the fiscal contraction in the short run, an accommodating monetary policy can be used. If the central bank increases the nominal money supply, there won't be any loss of output in the short run as the LM shifts to the right to neutralize the shift of IS to the left. The economy remains at Yn in this case. Macroeconomic effects of a supply shock. In this, first of all, let us discuss about the effects of a favorable supply shock. Recall that we briefly learnt about supply shock in the previous unit. Here, we examine the matter a little further. A supply shock is a disturbance to the economy which shifts the aggregate supply curve. In doing so, it affects the natural rate of unemployment by creating a mismatch between workers and jobs. For example, an adverse oil shock would lead to a structural change in the economy as energy dependent industries are replaced by new energy saving industries. This would result in workers taking time to find jobs in new industries, which causes structural unemployment. In this section, we discuss the effects of a favorable supply shock. Such shock arise in the form of emergence of ICT technology, which improves productivity or fall in price of an important commodity such as oil. Suppose the price of oil falls due to discovery of alternative energy sources. The fall in price of oil has significant macroeconomic implications. Let us assume that output is produced with the help of labor and other inputs. Therefore, the price changed by the firm must include wage cost and the price of other inputs. The impact of latter is captured by mu, the markup used by firms to set prices above the nominal wage. This is an underlying parameter of the aggregate supply curve, which captures the price setting behavior of firms and the wage setting behavior of workers that characterizes labor market equilibrium. Given wages, a fall in the price of oil can be explained by a fall in mu. The aggregate supply can be expressed by this functional form, where aggregate supply is function of Y, Yn, P, Pe and mu, where Y is the actual output, Yn the natural rate of output, P and Pi are the actual and expected prices respectively, and mu is the markup. We have learned that a change in Pe shifts the As. Now additionally, a change in mu also shifts the As. That is, in the short run, with a given Pe, an increase in the markup leads firms to increase their prices, leading to an increase in the price level at any given level of output. This results in an upward shift of the AS. In our example, a fall in the price of oil lowers mu, which causes a downward shift in the AS and lowers the natural rate of unemployment and simultaneously increases the natural rate of output. Figure 4.1 shows these shifts. The initial equilibrium is at A, where AS and AD intersect with Yn as the level of output. A fall in the markup shifts the AS to AS dash, which increases the natural rate of output to Yn dash. Since at the natural rate of output P is equal to PE, the new AS dash must pass through point B. The figure shows the dynamics of the adjustment. The economy reaches point A dash in the short run due to shift in AS to AS dash with output as Y dash and price level P dash. Observe that the output Y dash is below Yn dash and price is below the expected price level PE. This implies that workers will lower their expectations of the price level and the AS dash will shift to AS double dash. At point A double dash, the level of output increases to Yn dash and the price level falls further to P double dash. Thus, the overall impact of a fall in price of oil is an improvement in the level of long run output and a fall in aggregate price level. Now, the impact of an oil price fall on the aggregate demand curve is somewhat ambiguous, as there would be both winners, that is those who benefit from fall in oil price, for example the consumers, and the losers, those who don't, for example those linked to supply of oil in this process. Therefore, if the policy makers can ensure that the aggregate demand actually shifts to the right along with the permanent shift in the aggregate supply, the economy would move to a new equilibrium even faster. Now we can discuss about accommodating an adverse supply shock. We can understand the implications of an adverse supply shock in a similar way by shifting the AS upwards. One can easily find that an adverse supply shock such as a rise in price of oil would lower the level of output and cause an increase in the price level. To prevent lowering of output, stimulatory policies such as an expansionary monetary or fiscal policy which shifts the aggregate to the right can be pursued. This would allow the economy to move towards recovery faster. In the figure 4.2, the adjustment is shown. Aggregate supply and aggregate demand intersect at point E. Due to the supply shock, the aggregate supply shifts to AS dash and the economy moves to the point E dash, resulting in lowering of GDP and an increase in the price level. The accommodating policy is shown by a shift of aggregate demand from AD to AD dash, which shifts the equilibrium to E double dash and brings back the output to the original level. However, at E double dash, the impact on the price level is more severe than before as price increases by the full extent of the shift in AS. Needless to say, policymakers must weigh the consequences of high inflation before proposing an accommodating policy. In other words, they must exercise restraint as there is a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. A suitable option is to seek an intermediate position with some inflation and some unemployment. Before one tries to resolve the problem, it is important to understand if the fall in output is permanent or temporary. If it is the latter, then the accommodating policy would help in recovery from recession, but the policymakers has to get the timing right. However, if it is the former, then stimulatory policy will not help ease the recession and at the same time cause severe inflation. If the fall in the output is permanent one, as it lowers the level of potential output, an accommodating policy is best avoided. Now let us summarize what we have learned from this module. In the short run, a monetary expansion temporarily lowers the interest rate and increases the level of output. In the long run, however, output returns to the natural rate with no change in interest rate. A fiscal contraction lowers output and price level in the short run, which causes a recession. Over time, a fall in the interest rate increases investment spending and output as the economy reaches the long run equilibrium. A favorable supply shock shifts the long run equilibrium output level to the right and lowers the aggregate price level. An adverse supply shock, which is temporary, can be accommodated by adopting suitable stimulatory policies. That's all with this module. Thank you.